How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have a familiar face back in the building with us, and he can say his name, what he does, and all that jazz.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Jordan Coffey, your favorite solo artist. Well, hopefully your new favorite solo artist. Straight out of Maine. I'm releasing an album this Friday. By the time this comes out, actually, it will have been out for a little bit. But the album's Carpe Noctem. I wrote, recorded, and played and sang just about everything on the record, except for a couple cool guest spots. But yeah, that's me. Happy to be back. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Of course, Jordan. I love having bands on a second time. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like people get kind of an idea of like the artist when they like first initially come on. And then now I get to grill them and ask them some like real hard
There you
questions
go.
and stuff. So I feel like for me, this is the best part because I get to do it double over. But obviously, got to ask how you doing. How's things been since the last time we talked? I was trying to figure this out before we hopped on. I was like, maybe it's been a year, I want to say, or maybe a little bit longer.
It's been about 9 months or so. I think we connected in October, right around
Yes.
the time
Yeah.
Survival Horror dropped. And been all since then. Things have been good. Living the dad life. I'm engaged.
Congrats, man.
Got two awesome stepkids. Thank you, thank you. I'm pretty much living the dream, to be honest. So
I mean,
yeah.
you're rocking the Hawaiian dad shirt, which we were talking about
Oh
earlier.
yeah,
So we know
that's right.
dad mode's engaged right now. So that's
Full dad mode
full.
right now.
But musically, what's been going on? Because obviously you have Carpe Noctem coming out. Obviously be out by the time this comes out. But what was the
Right now.
process behind doing all of that? Because I imagine, I don't know if you were doing anything pre-pandemic. I mean, I imagine you were doing stuff pre-pandemic, but how have you been kind of navigating this sort of situation now? Obviously releasing a record in this time, like, do you find that there's maybe anything that has changed since like you release music in this time, or do you feel like people are more receptive now since they're like, maybe they're working from home, or maybe working at a less amount of time or something like that?
Well, it's been a huge adjustment for everybody. I mean, thankfully, we got most of the recording done. I actually think we've wrapped up recording in February, so just before the pandemic hit. Um, we played one show too in March that we were gearing up to play some shows this spring, and we're lining up a tour for this early this summer, but things got pushed back quite a bit. It was a little bit stop and go with the recording process and finishing things up. I mean, just with life getting crazy, we're not full-time musicians yet, but
Yeah.
hey, you know, so but putting in as much as we can, within everything that we had to get done. Thankfully, a lot of the creative process, recording and everything was already done before all this, and since the pandemic, we had to we had to take a break from rehearsals. We
Sure.
had to
Yeah.
cancel a bunch of shows, and kind of recalibrate for a little bit. We didn't even practice for a good couple months, just to make sure everything was kind of dying down first. And to that as well, we didn't get to. I mean, I'd like to be in the room mixing and everything, and like
Yeah.
have second ears and hands on. So Kyle and I had to kind of collaborate a little bit more online in that sense, like sending stuff back and forth, him getting the files to me, and kind of finishing everything up in a good timeline. I think the pandemic has been both good and bad. I think we were talking a little bit before about how like it kind of pushed everybody to the brink a little bit, but at the same time, I think since then, you know, people working from home, having all this time to stream their favorite stuff,
Yeah.
they've had more time and attention to give their art like they haven't had in a long time. And even without that, the shows being able to stay up and everything, I feel like at least in my community, a lot of the bands and artists who've kind of like pulled closer together. Like we're a lot more
Oh yeah.
tight knit now. We're a lot more supportive of each other. Always, peeping each other's shit, being like, hey, make sure you're checking these guys out because we
Yeah.
love these guys. It's been so I feel like the community's grown in that way, like, so it's been good and bad. We've had to be a lot more creative.
Yeah.
But we got everything finished with the record, at the very beginning of June. Got it mixed and mastered all in house. So, um, and I'm so excited, man. I've never been in any of the bands that I've done so far. They haven't put out a full length record.
Oh, awesome.
Um, and I haven't yet either. Over the years I've done a couple EPs that were different styles and singles and stuff, but this is like the first solidified, artistic statement.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, because we've known each other for like some bit of time now, and I
A
was
little
checking
bit,
out the
yeah.
EP, and then you had sent me over the full length, and I had checked some of that out so far, and obviously I'll have a review out for that very soon.
Oh,
Um,
thanks, man.
but it to me like it just seems like a cool evolution from from where you originally were with the EP, and like how I just found out about you, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. He's doing all of this like stuff. Obviously he has like a team behind him, but like a lot of it's like just you, and that's really
Yeah,
cool. And when you had sent this over to me, I'm curious how it's going to kind of transpire from like an EP to a full length, because I feel like when bands kind of take that, I don't want to say jump because that just sounds terrible, but like when a band takes a leap from like an EP to a full length, I feel like their thought process is just a little bit more widened. You're able to like
for
encapsulate
sure.
different stuff. So like, do you feel like because we've been in this time, do you feel like you were able to kind of experiment a little bit more? Like obviously you said you finished most of it pre-pandemic, but like do you feel like even with like the mixing and like the mastering and stuff like that, do you feel like you may have taken some risks that you otherwise wouldn't have if like things were just like normal?
Well, yes and no. Bring it like as far as like in the studio when we were getting everything done, we had that wider vision. A lot of those collaborative, magic moments that
Yeah,
happen, we were able to get that. And then, between, the pandemic and everybody staying home and us not knowing what to do and everything, we kind of just paused for a little bit.
sure.
And I think, there was a little bit of a gap in time because, we'd done this all in house. My co-guitarist, Kyle Sylvia, had handled all the recording and, co-produced the record with me and provided a little bit of additional guitars here and there. So like we'd already had like a lot of conversations about how we
Sure.
wanted it to sound, what we were looking for. We spent a lot of time tweaking tones and everything before we really even settled down on getting the songs and how we wanted them. And I think, so when everything kind of came to a halt, I had just been listening to the rough mixes, the instrumentals, and trying to
Mhm.
just glean as much as I could from it, so that when it came time to mixing, mastering, it was like, all right, so I've got these ideas, I've sat for a little bit, like how to bring it all together.
Sure. Yeah.
I think definitely, because there's like some interludes and stuff that weren't written until like the very, very, very end of like the whole
Oh,
process,
that's
which I
cool.
think, yeah, no, I love little things like that. Like, part of this record started last summer. Other bits of it came, just a few weeks ago. Like I love that, a statement can kind of like encompass all of that. And I don't mean to just carry on about all that right there,
No,
but
talk about whatever you want,
it's
Jordan. That's why
like,
you're here, man.
yeah. Um, so yeah, no, but we definitely took. I think we kind of had like enough time to let the vision crystallize by the time we had gotten down to mixing and mastering and just trying to make sure everything sounded all right. Where all the tones and EQ'd, everything properly. I don't mind. I mean, I've done both where, I go to a producer and I just show up and I record everything and then they
Yeah.
take care of the rest. This was a lot more hands-on with it being my first record. I kind of wanted to baby a little bit. And Kyle is such a trooper, I won't lie, for putting up with me because I can be a bit of like hard to work with sometimes. I'm like, no, it needs to be exactly like this. But no, so I feel like it is a bit of a time capsule from like when it started to the very end of the whole process, for
That's
sure.
awesome. And I feel like I gotta ask this question is obviously because you were working with Kyle, you're co-producer, co everything.
For sure.
How? like what was one song that started out like a certain way and then the final product was like completely different or like changed or altered? Like, do you feel like there was one song in particular or a couple handful of songs that you feel like started out initially where you're like, oh, this is a really cool idea, and then didn't, maybe it just didn't fit, and then you're like, oh well, how can I like rework it to still keep it in there, but like still like at the end you're just like, this is the song I wanted, like this is
For sure.
the road's paved with good intentions, you know?
Oh, absolutely. No, and this is the archetype of the story of everything that Kyle and I work on. It's a good creative clash, and we don't clash in the sense of like we butt heads over everything, but there is that that melting pot of ideas.
Sure,
I think
yeah.
there's a couple standout moments, like right in the very intro track. I had written "Out of the Ashes" to come like right in that drop to have the vocals come in right after, and he was like, "Why don't we give it like an extra pause? Like, why don't we do it one more time and let it sit for a little bit and let the riff ride for a little bit?" I'm like, and the first time I had heard that, he had just, copied and pasted it before we recorded it, just in like the rough sketch to like give me the idea of it. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, no, that's exactly what we need, that effect. The song "The Succubus" too, which that's another one. In the demo, there's like a demo version of every single one of these songs.
Sure, yeah.
Um, that and all of them I would say were about 90% where I wanted them. And then there were like a couple of them that where Kyle came in and like I kept like 70% of the original stuff. Like, this guitar part needs to sound full, like more full, or how can we add like a harmony to this to add
Yeah.
to it? There was a lot of peeling back stuff in exit strategy as well that um, like we recorded so many layers for that song that we're like, do we want this? Do we want this? A and B takes. But he's really good at like refining that gold in the fire, finding like, we'll do as many A and B takes as we need to until we get something that's like, ooh, ooh,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. So yeah, there was a couple for sure. I think, I think there was one more as well. And I'm not going to be able, oh, Vice, which is one of my favorites on it. And that the thing too was that it was one of the ones that we had recorded earlier on, but still sounded the best out of all of the ones that we went back to, and we didn't have as much to clean up with that one. We're like, what did we do wrong from thereafter? But that kind of helps set the template for like our not like the template, but like this is the album sound. Like, this is what we're kind of building things around. So yeah, no, he was definitely instrumental in bringing out the best in these songs too.
That's awesome. And like, how do you feel about like? I mean, I feel like there's some artists that I've had on here where like a member of their band or like someone close to them was like a producer and stuff. Like, how does it feel to have like obviously Kyle work on your tracks and stuff like that? Do you feel like it's like you have more of that like camaraderie because you're like, oh well, like this is my guy, like we do stuff together, like
Oh,
this is
absolutely.
it,
We
or do you feel like, obviously like you said you've worked with other producers, do you feel like he kind of gets your vision on certain things because you're like, oh, we've worked together for such a long time, like there's just this like this like this bond that we like, I know what he's thinking, like I'm just like, Kyle's like doing the
Yeah,
producer stuff and he's like, I feel like Jordan would like this, and then you're just like, how'd you know, and you like read my mind.
yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I jokingly call him my ride or die all the time. My fiance calls him his girlfriend, which I'm just like, wow, nice, thanks. No, but no. So we definitely have that rapport of like we've worked together. We know we have a lot of the same influences and ideas about things. Um, and we I think it's cool too because he also knows like he's able to point out like my weak spots and stuff, things that I'm
Yeah.
able to like kind of improve on. And it's different when you have, a producer can kind of just like other ones that I've worked with that I've not had this, where they've not also been a bandmate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there is kind of like that initial awkwardness of like, okay, well, how do I like, really explain what I'm going for? Like,
Yeah.
how did they record? Are they easy to work with? Or are they gonna just kind of let me do my own thing? Um, so yeah, no, but Kyle's definitely one to like take time with ideas and stuff, and I think that was definitely a strength in getting like the best final product for this for sure.
No, I feel like I said, because I've listened to it a few times through now at this point. And I try to listen to it as many times as I can before I'm like, I need to review this. But I felt like with the stuff, it was just like, obviously how much you're talking about like Kyle and stuff. Like to me, it just feels like, it's not just you anymore. It's like, okay, Kyle's in here, and it feels like kind of like he has that opinion. And I'm, like I said, I'm very curious to see, or maybe I don't know if we'll ever hear the demos, but like it would be curious to see the like A and B version of like, okay, this is how it originally sound like when I was doing all my stuff, and then like here's when I took it to Kyle, and then this is obviously like the final version. I think that would be really cool to, at least in my head, be like, here's the A and B versions, and be like, this is how much has changed, or like this was maybe his thought process. Like obviously I'm not a producer, but I appreciate those aspects because I kind of like try to nitpick and pick out certain things when I'm, reviewing stuff that I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like that change, or I like that key change, or I like that tempo change, or whatever. I think it's just really interesting to me. It might be just the nerd in me that enjoys that sort of stuff, but I think it's really
Oh
cool.
no, for sure. I think the best example, well, so first of all, I will say, as far as hearing like demo versions of stuff, so when the album comes out on Friday, if you go to jordancoffeymusic.com, and if you would buy the actual album that way, which comes with a high quality download and all that,
Yeah.
it also comes with bonus tracks, which are B-sides, demos, a couple cool little goodies like that.
There you go.
But to that as well, I think it would be really interesting to take and dissect survival horror, because there's honestly, I think, like 5 different versions of that song. So, I mean, and it's all like, the same song structure, the same intent, basically. There's the original demo that I did that was in a higher key, which I'm really glad we transposed down. It just, it's little things like that sometimes that like have me
Yeah.
excited. It was like, hey, if you just drop this a little bit, or if you move this around, it makes all the difference. So survival horror had about like 5 different versions. We had, the original demo. We had the single version, and then the music video version, which was slightly different from the video version. We really tried to nail down the template. Like that was good enough to ship out and say like, hey, this is new stuff coming, and like this is, a more definitive Jordan Coffey sound. But like you were saying as well, I like that you brought that up, that it's not just me. Like, so as far as writing and performing on the record, I wrote all the lyrics except for on Common Man. Anthony co-wrote his parts in the song, which made it even better. And I performed like 90% of it. Kyle, added a couple guitar parts or instrumentation here. Some of these songs changed a little bit too based on how the band played them. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a little like drum hit right before the chorus of Survival Horror that came from when Spencer, our drummer, added that. So it really is like, as much as I write a lot of that stuff, it is a community thing. Like, and
Yeah.
that's why live too, I always try to make sure it's Jordan Coffey and friends. Like, yes, these are my songs, but these guys are the ones that bring it to life. They
Sure.
add that extra element and that influence and that, you know, so it does definitely become a community project. No man's an island for sure.
Oh, I feel that, dude. I mean, maybe not as much, because I do feel like the one man show. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but I do definitely feel that at 99% of the time, and the very rare occasion that I'll have like collabs.
No, I know what you mean.
Obviously, what were you saying, Jared?
Oh no, I was just saying I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I feel that in the aspect of like being a solo artist, like that's kind of like the same boat, but like I think you do a lot of shit on your own, and that's super tight. But I also wanted to show the love to the band because I know like a lot of the
Absolutely.
live aspects of it are equally as important. So, but obviously talking about like the big thing, we've been talking about Carpe Noctem a lot. Like how did you come up with like the album name for it? Because I feel like there's got to be some symbolism behind that. And then like what's kind of like the theme of the record as a whole, because I feel like people that are nerdy like myself like to know all of these little key details, about a record. So maybe you
Oh,
can fill
absolutely.
somebody in.
Oh, for sure. So the title Carpe Noctem is actually it's a Latin pun, instead of Carpe Diem, which just seize the day, making the most of the opportunity. Carpe Noctem meaning seize the night.
Yeah.
Um, and the overall theme of the record is about finding hope in the darkness that you're in. A lot of these songs are about getting out of manipulative relationships. Some of them are about falling in love and being, free again in that sense. Some of them are about, um, you know, you're the only one that knows you're right and the world's still against you. It's kind of I wanted to like tell more stories with my lyrics. I
Hmm.
wanted to kind of not just like when I first started doing this, I would write a song basically to serve a guitar riff, um, and like, oh, it needs drums, and well, I might as well just sing vocals over it now. So here's some words, and thinking about what I was doing today, and I wanted this to be, from front to back a statement. So it encompasses a lot of the stuff that like I was going through when I wrote it, kind of managing my own darkness, going through, therapy and trying to, work on my demons and be a better person. And,
Yeah.
those lyrics often became like therapy for me, but I didn't want it to be like hopeless either, like Exit Strategy is about, this girl leaving, an abusive relationship and taking her power back,
Yeah.
um, quantity versus quality is like, even though the world's against you, it's like, hey, well, I'm better off alone anyways, like I've still got me. Um, so it's I wanted to be able to relate to people like when I was a kid. I discovered alternative metal and this whole post-hardcore scene and everything. I was just like, wow, like people are finally like expressing how I feel,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that 13-year-old angst I had, I totally understood all those problems.
I feel that.
uh,
Yeah.
but no, I wanted to make a record that like 13-year-old Jordan would have like flipped his shit over and been like, dude, it's awesome. So from everything from like the imagery to the lyrics to the sound, I wanted to just you know encompass all of that. So it really is about making the most of the darkness and trying to like have a little bit of hope in those situations. None of them are totally like, well, I'm alone and that's that. No.
No, I feel like that was for me because I don't particularly pay attention to like the lyricism, not because I don't feel like there's a lot of great lyricists in this genre, because there absolutely is. But I feel like a lot of my stuff, because I am a guitar player, like I focus a lot more so on the musical
Right.
aspect of it. And there's people that literally will dissect lines of lyrics, and I'm just like, I don't have an English degree, so I'm just not even gonna touch that. But I feel like with your stuff, like it like kind of in the same way that that We Came as Romans kind of touches me in the way of like, they have these lyrics that obviously like are either screamed or sang by, rest in peace Kyle. I feel like they were able to kind of hit on stuff that I really love, like growing up, like, To Plant a Seed's still one of my favorite records of all time.
Oh, for sure.
But like I feel like with your stuff, like, I felt that same sort of way. Like when I first listened through to it, I was just like, this feels like that same like lyricism sort of path, that it's like, okay, like shit sucks, but like, there's so much shit you can be like hopeful about, even though like it's not the best, best alternative or best whatever, like things get better. And to me, that was like, that's always spoke to me about like the alternative scene. I feel like I don't know, for whatever reason, every band in the scene does a pretty good job of like encapsulating those sorts of feelings. But
for sure.
just because I feel like a lot of people can relate to it. But I felt like with your stuff, like again, the whole like "We Came as Romans" like lyricism came flooding into my head, and I was like, "Oh
Nice.
shit!" I'm like, "This is awesome." So I wanted to give you
I
props for
appreciate that.
that. I know that maybe wasn't necessarily your intention, but to me, that's it. Kind of struck that same level, and they're pretty high on my pedestal in terms of like
Oh,
lyricism. So
well, thank you. No, for sure. I mean, I could geek out with you for hours for sure about how good To Plant a Seed is. That We Came as Romans album is
oof.
just that was genre defining for me, and it's one I still return to because the lyrics are that good. They do stick with you because they mean something, you know. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem, Jordan. Always trying to give the
Well,
props out. Again, I don't really primarily focus on a lot of lyrics, but I felt like for me and for the viewers out there, like seriously, lyricism wise, top notch, but the music's also
thank
like
you.
on that same level. So,
Thank
obviously,
you.
for people who didn't check out the first interview, which again, would highly recommend checking it out if you're interested. But what would be one song off of Carpe Noctem that you would recommend to a new fan? Like, I feel like that's kind of like a cheese ball sort of like way of putting it, but like, I feel like it has to be said, like not definitively, but just like one that you're just like, this is the first one. You gotta check this one out.
If you wanted to get a good flavor of what the album was about, I would either recommend Exit Strategy or Vice. And
Ooh,
probably I will say Vice. So here's a little secret: when the album drops this Friday, get it. Um, when it comes out this Friday, it's gonna come out with a music video for Vice, which has like all the behind the scenes footage from like pre-COVID making the album. So I would say that's probably like the song to like, okay, all right, that's what this album's about. All right.
there we go. That's awesome. I definitely love those little like behind the scenes snippet like music videos where you see someone in the studio and they're like, playing the guitar and you got something to do with a camera. That's the best. I don't know. There's something about me. Maybe again, I'm old as shit, so I feel like for me that I enjoy those music videos, even though they're maybe like not like a grandiose sort of thing. It's just like they're in the studio. They're working on that music. I
It's not a
appreciate that.
grand story to tell, but it's us being candid in the process. We had fun. We had a lot of fun.
Well, Jordan, I have to ask some fun questions, which is a good segue. Um, what are some bands that you're listening to currently? I know I asked you in the last time I interviewed you, but what are you listening to now? Has things changed? Do you have some new artists in the rotation now, or what are you listening to?
Got a couple new ones. I should have prepared for this one a little better. I had a feeling this was coming. I'm still obsessed with that Loathe record.
Ooh, you're
Oh
right.
man, I heard that Two-Way Mirror song and I was hooked. They got the nod from Chino Moreno of Deftones,
I
man. I
know.
can't even. Ah, so they're doing something right. Huge props to them. Um, I don't know. I've some of it's changed, some of it's the same. Kind of dig more into that stuff. I haven't um, been as diligent in my repetitive Deftones listening, so I've been getting some other stuff in there too.
There you go.
Um, no, well, honestly, to be honest, the last couple weeks has been, or like the last week or so, has been like the strangest back and forth mix of third wave ska and thrash metal. I think,
Ooh,
and I'm not even joking. I think within the span of 3 days, I listened to Less Than Jake, Exodus, Testament, Five Iron Frenzy. Just it's a mess, dude. I don't know what's going on. I just, I want to listen to whatever, and I have the most serious music ADD. I think my Spotify, made for you playlists there. Sometimes they're just like,
what do we do? We
what do
don't
we
know.
do with
We
this?
don't
What do we
know.
do with
It's like that.
this?
It's like that. Like Pulp Fiction meme with John Travolta. He's just like,
Yeah,
I'll put it up on screen, possibly.
absolutely.
But yeah, no, I feel like, dude, that Loathe record. I don't know. I'm having a hard time picking my favorites for this year already, just because there's just been, oh my god, there's been some awesome records. But that Loathe record, I had took a break from not listening to it, and I know a lot of people were like talking about it in some of the interviews coming up, and I was just like, I gotta go back and listen to it. So I went back and listened to it, and I was just like, damn it. I'm like, it's still so good. Like, it's so
Yeah.
frustrating, but it's also like, so ethereal and so heavy. Oh man. And
It
then,
just it hits both those levels of like the really atmospheric,
yeah.
like almost shoegazy, like moodiness, and then it just like crushing.
Yeah.
Like Aggressive Evolution is just a heavy song, and I love that whole record. Nah, the Loathe Boys are doing it all right for sure.
They definitely are. And then obviously you had mentioned Deftones, so I have to talk about
Yeah.
White Pony that turned I think
Oh,
20 years. I think it was a 20-year anniversary.
yeah,
I
a
could be
few years
wrong.
ago, 20 years. I
That
can't
is
even believe
nuts.
that. I remember the first time I heard Back to School.
Oh yes.
Nah,
Woo.
that was when, like, because I had liked Around the Fur, which was, like, in my discovering music, I was a couple years behind because of my age. I was born in 91, so I was just barely catching some of those trends
Yeah.
back when they first came out. But the White Pony is definitely one of those records that made me, like, okay, what am I doing as an artist, and how do I backtrack to at least some, like, because it's art from
Yeah.
front to back. It
It
is
is.
art, and it's definitely one of those career-defining records that I think that every band hopes that they have. Like, what's our White Pony gonna be? Um, and then I also heard they're gonna do. They not only does Deftones maybe have a new album, hopefully coming out this year.
I think it is. I
Um,
think it is. We're still fingers crossed, but
no,
I
still
think it
fingers
is.
crossed. But they're doing a 20th anniversary of White Pony
Yes.
with their original idea of doing a remix album, Black Stallion, which that's pretty sweet to have as a companion album. I'm like, really? That's perfect, man.
Yeah,
They're
they're doing all the good stuff, man. It's awesome. It's great to see they're like still kicking it, still doing their thing. Like I feel like I'm even a little younger than I was born in 93, so like I feel like I kind of jumped up past it a little further. So like I found out about Deftones through Diamond Eyes, which I know a lot of people are kind of like, mixed on, but then I found out about White Pony and I was just like, oh god, this is god tier, man. Like
Oh,
I have a special
absolutely.
love for Diamond Eyes just because it was the first Deftones records, but my
Oh, and there's
god.
nothing wrong with Diamond Eyes. I mean, for them, that was, just as an important record. Their first one without their original bassist, and
Yeah.
I mean, Diamond Eyes is a go-to Deftones song, even when you're just wanting to throw something on. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care what era you love most, but yeah, no, sorry.
No, no,
Rambling.
no, no. That's like I said, I am not nearly as knowledgeable on the whole Deftones thing, but I know Deftone, I know White Pony is such a just like quintessential record if you're like into metal music. Like you gotta listen to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's 20 years now, so I feel like you gotta listen to it. It's too important not to. But obviously, speaking about great bands, Jordan, if you were to compile a musical supergroup, who would be in your band?
Oh man, am I a part of this band or no?
You
Because
can choose. You can choose to be or choose not to be. That will be up to your discretion. I am not going to make that choice for you.
I would love to be in a room with. I mean, I would love to have Gino sing on anything. I mean, I know we
Fair
were just
enough.
talking
Yeah.
about Deftones. Um, I don't know. I really feel like having Tom Morello and maybe like I don't know, man. I don't know. I'd really have to think about that. But I've always known that like Tom Morello from Rage, I'd love to just be a fly on the wall when he gets creative, man. I don't
That
know.
already sounds pretty interesting already. We have Chino. We have Tom Morello. Okay. There's nothing.
I feel like I might throw Wes Borland in there too, just because he's another one of my favorite guitar
Ooh,
players. But
okay. Okay. Okay.
which actually, fun fact, I didn't know this. I didn't know that Wes Borland, guitar player of Limp Bizkit, had played bass from first to last. Like on one of their, yeah, I know, right?
What? That is
Totally.
nuts.
I had to do a double take when I read that. But
That
no,
is
apparently he
crazy.
recorded on the Heroin album and like toured with them a little bit after that, which is nuts. Like,
What? This is breaking knowledge to me, dude. I have
It
what?
was to me, and I
Oh
know I'm
my
like late to the
god!
party on
What?
that, but
That is
the
cool.
metal community is small. It's funny because like the rise of you know post new metal 2003 2004
Yeah.
into ushering like post hardcore metalcore kind of taking the more dominant scene 2005 and 6. There's not It's weird you don't see as much of an overlap, but there is because those communities like directly influenced each other, at least in
Oh,
their
100%.
overlap for sure.
Wow, that's nuts. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I
Okay, so
I never
We have Wes Borland, we have Tom Morello, we have Chino Moreno. So we have two guitar players, a singer. So you
yep.
have a bass player spot to fill and a drummer spot to fill. I think you can do it, Jordan. I got faith.
You got faith in me? All right.
I'm putting you a little on the spot, but I know, diamonds are built under pressure. So,
All right, that's fair. So if I get to throw myself in this mix and this is purely fantasy, then hey, I'll play bass for this. Why not?
ooh, okay. So Jordan's playing bass. All right, all
I'll
right.
play bass, and
Okay,
as
who's your
far as a
drummer?
drummer, I'm going to be terrible because I don't have, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but the drummer from Architects is an
Oh, that's
absolute
I know who
god.
I know who it is, but I can't remember his name either. I can see him right now, like in my
Yep,
head. I don't
does.
know
I'm
who he is.
telling you.
I think it's one of the brothers, if I'm not mistaken. I think
Yeah,
it's in fact, I'll look it up because I want to give him
please
the
do
I want to
because
give him
I
the
feel
I want to
terrible.
give him the props because I would feel insanely guilty because I love Architects. Oh God,
See, the
but
way I see it, we've got two really groovy guitar players and a really techie drummer, and we got a
yes,
vocalist who can kind of do a little bit of everything. And I could maybe attempt to keep up on bass.
it's Dan Surley,
Yes, thank you.
and I wasn't sure if he passed away or Tom did.
No, it
Um,
was their guitarist.
yeah, so then
Yeah,
it was Tom. So then Dan's there. Yeah, I knew they were brothers. I just couldn't remember who was what. But yes, or Dan Sturley.
for
That's the guy.
sure.
Wow, that's okay. Okay, let me process this.
I always throw
That's
you the
cool.
weird one.
Okay, yeah, this is cool. I like this. I can get down with that. Chino, if you want to set that up, because I know you would have. Well, Tom Morello might have the pull for that. Who knows? But if you guys want to see that, make sure to tweet at Chino Chino Moreno and timestamp it at this very moment in time. Also, don't timestamp Architects where we didn't remember their drummer's name because that would be
No,
really
please don't,
unfortunate.
because we will
I
look
would
as
be
terrible.
very sad. I don't want to have that type of misinformation out on the internet, and I would love to interview Architects eventually. So, I don't need that. I don't need that on my conscience. I'd feel extremely guilty. But the next question, Jordan, another fun one as well. If there was one song that you wish that you wrote or album you wish that you wrote, what album would it be?
If there was an album that I wish that I had written, oh
Correct.
man, uh, I would say "In Love and Death" by the Used.
Ooh,
Um,
okay, reasoning. I need to know the reasoning because we're like in the same age
so
bracket. So I know why you said this, but I need to hear the explanation, you know?
so Bert's definitely always been a little bit of an influence in me. It's one of the few vocal comparisons I get, and for me, that album was like the perfect mix of heavy and emotional and melodic and catchy, and the production was just raw enough to like be aggressive and angsty, but it
Yeah.
was so clean enough to like have that polish where you're like, wow, this is yeah. So I'd have to say yeah, probably that, or um, close close to that as well. Silverstein's "Discovering the Waterfront."
Oh,
And there are albums by Silverstein that I think I love more, but that was the first one I had ever heard
I
from
feel
them,
that.
and that completely changed the game for me as far as emo and post-hardcore. Uh, it's still a record I come back to.
Oh, 100%. I love both of those picks. I feel like I'm a little bit more like I love Silverstein So when you said discovering the waterfront, I automatically was just like, that's got to be the one. If that's not it, then I'd be very surprised if you didn't say that. But the Used record, man, that and Love and Death, man, oh, that's such a great record.
For
When you
sure.
said that, I was like, I caught fire immediately came in
Yep.
my head, and I was just like,
Oh man.
that chorus, that's one of the best. That's probably one of my favorite emo choruses up there.
Oh,
It's
for
definitely
sure.
up there for sure. But Bert, if you watch this, go hit up my boy
Got
Jordan.
crazy love for you, man. For
Crazy
real.
Love. I need to see that collaboration because that would be fantastic. But the next question, Jordan, I don't typically, I don't consider music to be guilty, but I know that I know there's certain artists out there that people wouldn't necessarily associate you with. So what would be one artist that you feel like, that people wouldn't necessarily associate you listening to?
So I have a huge love for rap and hip hop music.
Fair
Um,
enough. Okay.
grew up with that. Um, I would say, oh, I get what you mean because I agree. I don't believe in having like a guilty pleasure. You like what you like as far as
Yeah.
music. But I think my most oddball, one would probably be, rest in peace, Juice World. That kid, I've never heard somebody freestyle like that. His choruses were catchy as all get out. I fell in love with those two albums that he did before he passed, and I've still got them on regular rotation. Too good, too good.
That's interesting. I would have never guessed that. That would I would probably, yeah. I don't even think I would have. I don't even think I would have been remotely positive on that one. So that one threw me as being not only your friend, but I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that. That's kind of sick. I like that. Can get down with that. But the
Sure.
last thing, Jordan, the most important thing, obviously the main reason why you're here. Tell the people where they can find you on social media. Tell them about Carpe knocked him. I was gonna say Carpe Diem. Almost caught myself. Can't have that. I've definitely messed up before in my life on this channel. So if you want to watch all of the mistakes, you can continue watching the channel. I'm sure there will be tons of them. But tell them about Carpe knocked him. Where you can purchase it because it's out now. And tell people what's going on basically.
Absolutely. So Carpe Noctem is going to be available on all the streaming sites on Spotify, Tidal, you know, Google Play, Apple Music, what have you. It's all out there for free. If you want to check it out there. Um, we as well. We're hopefully by the time that this festival rolls around in September, we're also looking to have physical copies that will, have available through jordancoffeemusic.com, which, oh, also, yeah, new website, jordancoffeemusic.com. Super easy to find all of my music there. It's got
Yeah.
all my socials, things there as well. Um, on all the social media as well, it's just at Jordan Coffee Music. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is jcoffee_music. But I think everything else is at Jordan Coffee, so pretty easy to find me that way.
Well, as you know, I'll leave the links in the description where you can find out about Jordan Coffee. Go check out Carpe Noctem. I was gonna say Diem again. I don't know why. My brain just goes to that. So I'm that's gonna be the last time I'm gonna say it without screwing it up. But go check out
No
Carpe
worries.
Noctem. It is out now, so you can go buy it. You can go purchase it. Go pick up a physical copy. I'm an old fart. I love the physical copies, so your boy's gonna pick up a CD, and hopefully, I don't know, the vinyl. I don't know. I'm
Oh man,
feeling. I know the vinyl would be hard, but oh god, that'd be. I really. I don't know.
we'll see.
I'm all about having bands on that. Like obviously I know, and then I just pitch them the thing to be like, can you make a vinyl? I know it's just like me just being selfish and asking for it, but the collection's gotta be filled with all of the homies
Oh,
as
for
much
sure.
as much as I love my music. The music that I purchase, but like homies music. That's where it's
Absolutely.
at. That's where it's at. So go check out Jordan Coffee. As I said, links below. If you enjoyed the interview, share it, like it, subscribe. It really would go a long way. And I know everybody's stuck in quarantine. So, what better to do than just put
Right.
the playlist on and just watch me
That's
be an
right.
idiot for however long you want to. And then make sure to go tweet at Chino Moreno and Burt McCracken so we can get some dang sick features for Jordan out here for his next release.
Yes, please.
World tour
Oh,
and
no,
coming in
no.
2022. Jordan's got some big shit coming, so you gotta
Yeah.
get rocking right now. You gotta get on the train. But again, thanks to Jordan for coming on and chatting, doing all the fun shit we do on here on this channel.
Hey, dude, thanks for having me. It's been a blast, like always, man. Thanks again.